Hello and welcome back to our crazy chats. We're so excited to be here today. I always, as you guys know, I love chatting with Ella. I feel like I grow so much when her and I have conversations with each other. And so today we're going to talk about something that's super exciting to me. We're going to talk about foundations of self-mastery and how that affects our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with others. But we want to give you first of all, I'm going to ask Ella some questions about, her kind of thought processes around this, because like I said, I always learn so much from her. But also we're going to try to pull out some actionable items and just to create a tangible digestible explanation of what is that. So Ella, what is self-mastery to you?
I think a lot of people try to master themselves for others, but that's not self-mastery, if that makes sense. A lot of people I have witnessed, they want to change so that they're perceived differently. Maybe from a boss, family member, maybe they're a single person seeking a relationship with someone, and they want to be the best versions of themselves, but not for themselves. And I think to truly be self-mastery, to truly master yourself, it has to be for you. And because you simply just want to experience this life, this short little blip in whatever this is, you want to experience the best you possibly can while you're here, because our time here is so short and we don't have a lot of time here. For me, anyways, what self-mastery is to me is being the best version of myself so I can experience the best that life has to offer.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say I think of it in very similar terms to you. When I think of self-mastery, I probably have said this on so many of our previous conversations, like how can I get to know myself better and all the parts of myself? And the deepest, probably like lately, I'm like, how can I get to know the deepest, darkest parts of myself so that I can love myself in the way that I want to love other people? And I've been on like a weird kind of deep dive with this because I've been reading.
So have
Oh
I.
my gosh. We literally need to also have a book club because like I just finished The Mastery of Love and the Toltec wisdom around that. And oof, that was something for me. Because I messaged you, I was out of town and I was like, oh my God, I'm having all of these aha moments about like my beliefs of myself, like going to the deepest, darkest corners of my soul. And
I'm so glad that you bring this up, actually, because I think a lot of people think that mastering yourself, becoming the best version of yourself, you wake up every morning at 6 a.m., you drink smoothies all the time, you journal and meditate. And like, yes, you do those things, but to truly master yourself, like you've said, and I love that you've brought this up, it's going into those deep, dark corners and pulling all the skeletons out of the closet and really understanding your trauma and your childhood experiences and your thought patterns and even your mechanisms, your processes, realizing how you've handled things in the past and how that's still playing out in your current reality right now.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Really
feel
important. Because if you can't master that aspect of yourself, it gets hard it's almost a facade when you're just doing the yoga and the meditation and the journaling. Like you have to get those dark demons on their leash and you get them under control by mastering yourself.
Mhm. I actually want to come back to something that you just said, and we can dissect this and digest it a little bit. But we recently had a conversation with each other, and I feel like this has been like such a theme in January. I don't know if it's because it's January or what's going on, but I guess it's not January anymore, it's February. But
Yeah, almost the end of February already.
oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, I'm like stuck back in I'm gonna stay stuck in January for a while, I think. But you said self-mastery is not just getting up and drinking smoothies and these kind of things. It's
That's a
just
part of it. And there is a place for that in the journey. of becoming so sorry, in becoming the best version of yourself. You do want to do those things because it's fun to take care of yourself and you show up better for it. But if you aren't going into the depths, the darkness, and uncovering that and kind of sifting through it, it almost plays those fun things, the fun parts of self-mastery, almost become a mask over top of those dark parts. And it doesn't give you the chance to dive into those dark parts because you're like, well, I do all these good things. I should be good. I should be showing up fine. That was something I dealt with for a long time. And then one thing for me that I did that actually really helped me was going to someone I super trusted, which was you. And I was like, what are my blind spots?
Oh
Where's
yeah.
an area in my life that I'm ignoring? Because the people you love and trust, and you have to be really careful with who you go to with this. I just
Mhm.
want to disclaimer, like you don't want someone who's going to use that power against you. But for me, that person was you, and you were just upfront and honest with me, and you're like, your relationship with men. You have
Yeah.
to heal that. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. That every encounter, every person that plays out, that comes forth, that is a blind spot that I've been ignoring. And that is somewhere that I need to go and understand where that stems from and why I am the way I am and why I react to things the way I do. But my
I
life has
definitely think
so much.
that that is an incredibly powerful tool in the tool belt that so many people don't use, right? We have blind spots. I don't know why I came to this realization. I think it was something I heard someone say, but it was just, we have blind spots and we don't know we have them because there are blind spots. So if we have people close to us that we trust, that we can ask like, hey, can you just help me out with this thing? Can you be really honest? I think everyone should have one person that is a really safe person for them that they can have that kind of relationship with and say, you know what, I feel vulnerable about this, but can you tell me what I'm not seeing of myself right now?
Mhm.
Um,
And also, just like a total disclaimer for that, you are going to feel offended and it is going to be really touchy. Like you said that to me, and I was like, but then I was like, yeah, that hurts. That's how I know you're right. If something offends you, if something touches you, catches you by surprise, that is you don't go and be like, oh, I can't believe you said that. You're wrong. Just you saying that like justifies that what you're saying is correct because things that things that we don't believe are true, they have no impact on us. It's like
mhm.
I forget which book I read this in. I think it's one of Louise Hay's books. And she's like, if a kid came up to you and was like, you're a purple elephant, like, okay. But if a kid came up to you and was like, you have a big nose and a big forehead, and that was something that I knew about myself but was ignored, or like something, this is just an example. But if I was like, how dare you say that, it's just a kid, they don't really understand what they're saying, but you chose to take offense to that. It's a choice, but also a subconscious choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
that's a
that's my
great example.
sign. That's always my sign that, ooh, this is kind of offending me. This is something that I have to work on for me because what offends me isn't going to offend everyone else. That means it's my problem that I get to solve and I get to come to terms with and I get to heal for
Mhm.
me.
Okay, pulling it back though to smoothies for 1 second. I just I want to ask your opinion on this because I know what my opinion is on obviously on nutrition and exercise. Um, how much of a role do you think that plays in self-mastery, and what is the role? I want to see if you and I have the same answer on this.
The
What
role
is
of
the role that creating solid foundations plays in how much of an impact, let's say, how much of an impact does the external things we do, how we eat, how we sleep, how we exercise, or how we move our body, how we think about ourselves, how much of an impact does that play on your journey of self-mastery, would you
oh,
say?
it's huge. And I'd say it's almost equally important as diving into your past and understanding why you are the way you are. They both work coherently together.
Mhm.
And together, they allow you, they lift you up and help you become the person you're supposed to be. Um, each on their own. If you go into a spiral about all this dark stuff and you don't do anything about it, you're gonna have some issues. But also, if you're only doing these things, it's the two paired together where when the magic happens, I
Mhm.
believe personally. And I really strongly believe that you are what you consume. And I think a lot of people think of that as food, which yes, it is, but it's the kinds of foods you consume, where they're sourced from, how they've been made. It's also the people you surround yourself with, the conversations you listen to, the media you consume, literally everything, the movies you consume, the background noise, the environments you're in. If you're at a job and you're like, I just go there and get my work done, but you have a lot of negative people around you, whether you like it or not, your subconscious is picking up on multiple things at a time that you don't even know of. I wish I knew the numbers, but our brain is picking up on, like, I think it's hundreds of different things at the same time, but we can only focus on like a fraction of what those things our subconscious mind is picking up. Like, consciously, we can only focus on a very small number of things at a time. So I think, sorry, I totally went on a tangent there.
No, I
But it's everything, it's all of it working coherently together that allows you to become the best version of yourself. Like I said, the food, everything, it's everything you consume. Yeah. I know that's a lot. Are there more specific things that you want to ask me, like about my thoughts and opinions on of like consumption, and or do you have something to share about that as well?
no, I was just curious because I think it's important to talk about. And I assumed that you and I had the same perspective on it because I would say I definitely believe the same thing, right? The what we consume, through nutrition and digitally obviously shapes our world in a huge way. It creates a foundation for how we will experience all the things around us.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would definitely say it's really important.
I want to add too, this is just like a personal story, but I don't watch any news. I don't read any newspaper. I never look at magazines in the store. I just zone them out. They're not important to me. But I think so many people are consumed by this. And I had one person in a previous job I worked at, they had said to me, what do you mean you don't know about this? Everyone knows about this. Don't you think it's important to know what's going on around the world? And I actually thought in my head, no, because it's consuming you and you're actually really worried about it. And it's actually affecting you and your life. You don't even see it. I see it. And I'm happy. I'm at peace. I don't need to know about this. It'll sort itself out.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think at a baseline level, we should have some knowledge or some understanding of things that are going on. But
You hear from it, I find you hear from it from the right people.
that's right. I was gonna
Like,
say
you would tell me like, oh, there's this serious catastrophic world event happening, and you would tell me, and I'd be like, oh. And then if I chose to, I could go and look more into that online from specifically sourced outlets that are trustworthy. But no, I think those like trashy mags, the trashy magazines and the newspaper, like all of it is my personal opinion. It's a facade to kind of disrupt people, to get people worried, because when there's fear, where there's fear, there's money, which it's as terrible as it sounds, it's true, but also where there's love, there's money. You just really get to pick and choose where you put your
Mhm.
attention and intention.
Actually remember really specifically, this was a few years ago. oh my gosh, I can't even think of when this would be, like probably 5 or 6 years ago. It was like the start of my deep dive journey into personal mastery. But I used to listen to podcasts, what were they called? They were called like Comp Train or something. And they were a gentleman, it was a host interviewing a gentleman by the name Ben Bergeron. And I came to really highly respect him. And I just love how he lives and the way he thinks. And at least at that point, I haven't seen too much of him lately. But I remember him saying that he was really, really intentional about everything that he digested, like not even talking about food. Like he said, he's like, I don't really watch movies anymore. I don't watch TV ever. He
Yeah,
kind of said
that's
these
how I
things
am
and
too. That's
yeah,
how I do. I find I haven't in a, and before, you just kind of become numb to it. You're like, yeah, like this is just a movie. But
Mhm.
now when I watch something super violent or super scary, even though mentally, consciously, I'm like, I know that it's a film, it's not real, but my body, I feel the impact in my body. I feel my heart beating really quickly. I feel I get scared. And I'm like, why would I do that to myself? I shouldn't be putting myself in that state even willingly. I don't think it's healthy.
Yeah, I really started to notice how movies, especially, Dave loves movies and is such a movie buff. And it's not to say that obviously, I watch movies with him once in a while, but I'm very, very particular now about how much time I spend doing those things, like how much time I spend consuming movies, especially because after I had Jack, it I was really aware of how much certain things affected me. Like I'd sometimes watch a movie with Dave and I couldn't stop thinking about it for days. Like if it was like a really crazy, something tragic or maybe even a true story, I would just think about it over and over again. And I had to really be careful. Like I find I'm way more cautious about what I take in. Like there are some things, some kind of newer movies and stuff that I know he would
Well,
love to
and
watch, but
the editing now is so good that it
it's so good.
really is real, and it's almost giving yourself, like you said, you think about it over and over again. You're like willingly inducing yourself with traumatic events.
Yeah, and not in a crazy way. Like it's not in a crazy way that you're, thinking about them over and over again. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It just takes up a lot of my brain space. And so I find it's not a great use of my time.
Or your
So
energy.
in so many ways. Yeah.
Another thing too, music. I used to listen to all this music with like swear words. They'd talk about women really terribly, like
Yes.
using women as sexual objects and taking advantage of women and drugs and
Mhm.
swearing, and like I'd listen to like rap music about like growing up in the violent hood, and I'm like, I shouldn't be listening to that. And people don't know, you like sing a song and you sing it over and over. You're affirming that and almost calling it into your reality by speaking of it. Um, if you listen to music where they speak about women terribly, you're not going to see women as these all like sensual, beautiful, goddess-like beings that bring life into the earth, that are these creative beings.
Mhm.
You're gonna be like, oh, woman, you're not gonna see
Yeah.
them in the beautiful light that they've been meant to be seen in. And yeah, I noticed, and this all happened really naturally, but as I got more into my spiritual and personal development journey, I naturally just shifted away from those like violent movies, TV shows, music, and now I only listen to like classical music because I don't like listening to songs with words in them, because if I don't know what it's saying, like I said, my subconscious mind is picking up on it and it knows. And for me, I don't want that. I want to be in control of what I allow to enter my energetic field, because we are such powerful, powerful beings and we don't even know. But yeah, now I listen to like classical music or love music, talking about like love, spreading love, being in love. Because I think that's how you should live life, just being in love with everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something a lot of people don't put too much thought into, but it's definitely worth paying attention to.
And it like it wasn't like I intentionally was like, I'm not watching these kinds of movies, I'm not listening to this kind of music, I'm not eating this kind of food. It was the more I fell in love with myself and my life, I was more careful of what I consumed, just because it meant a lot to me that I can show up as my wholesome, authentic being that
Mhm.
doesn't have any persuasion or any negativity attached to my being, so that I can show up the best I can.
Mhm. Yeah, people should pay more attention to that.
It's like a natural shift though. You don't even have to like super intentionally do it, but it really is. Once you love yourself, when you are fully in love with yourself, why would you spend your time watching something violent? You love yourself. You don't want to scare yourself. You love
Mhm.
yourself. Why would you put a food that has 36 different chemicals in it that's been processed so many times? You love yourself.
Mhm.
It doesn't even have to be a question. You just don't even think to choose those things. When you're in a high vibrational state, you naturally are just gravitated to other high vibrational state things, such as alive food, um, healthier food, more wholesome songs, more wholesome music, more wholesome movies. It's just a natural, the shift starts with you. When you start embodying that high vibrational state that you want to be in, you don't even have to worry about looking out for all those negative things.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I think people, I shouldn't say I think people, but I wonder how much, never mind. I'm not even gonna go there.
But
I just, I don't know. I can't not think about how so many, like for instance, a lot of the people I meet they're so consumed by everything outside of themselves that I think it's hard for them to understand like what that would be like to just to grow enough or to improve let me try that again. To improve their relationship enough with themselves that it would just be a natural evolution of, not watching those things or not, taking those things in, not eating foods like that. Like I know what you're saying. Because I would say I've definitely experienced that myself, but I think so many people are just so far away from that.
we've been programmed in a way to believe that everything outside of us knows the answers except for us.
Hmm.
So that's why we seek pleasure through extrinsic sources, through TV, through the food we eat, through everything we do, rather than like you can create so much pleasure within yourself. And I think even the word pleasure, people are like, they have a weird feeling about that word. I used to, and I used to be like, oh, that's such like a sexual word. But no, like we're meant to experience pleasure and we cultivate that pleasure within ourselves. But we have all of these things that almost act as distractions from that true source of pleasure. And then we get quick dopamine hits to have small bursts of pleasure in like I just think of it as like grayness,
Mm.
with like little bursts of light that you get from eating that chocolate, little burst of light you get from watching that intense show that
Mm.
you feel like on edge watching it. But I find, because I've lived this life and I know what this is like, I've experienced this, and now being where I am, everything's pleasurable because I choose to see it that way. I choose to love my being, my body, and because of that, everything is pleasurable.
Yeah.
Taking a nice fresh breath of air, sipping a sip of my tea in the morning, looking at myself in the mirror while I get ready. All of it's pleasurable. And because I'm not looking for pleasure outside anything but myself.
I actually love that so much. I recently heard something where this woman was talking about self-love which you could call, self-mastery is self-love. But she was talking about how we experience ourselves, and if everything we did every day was with love, from, brushing our hair in a way that we loved ourselves and brushing our teeth more lovingly, and putting our clothes on or putting our lotion on, like all of our self-care, the things that we do every day, like our daily rituals, if we approach them from a place of self-love, like how different like the feelings are in us and how different we show up.
I'm literally a testimony of that. Do you remember how different I looked like 2 years ago? I still looked like me, but I wasn't as vibrant. I wasn't as healthy looking. You could see it in my eyes. And even in my face was like puffier. I just didn't look as healthy. And what really changed my appearance and the way I showed up, I remember this is like such a pivotal moment in my life. I hated myself. I had the worst relationship with myself. I couldn't even look at the mirror without crying just because I didn't like who I was. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like my life. And one day I was so sick of hating myself. I hated hating myself. That's how much the hate built up. And I decided I've been hating myself for so long. I've been doing all these things to my body for so long, and it's only digging me into this deeper hole. What would happen if I just started loving myself? Because what I'm doing now isn't working. Maybe I need to go in that opposite direction. And I remember the first time I said, I love you to myself in the mirror, and it was so uncomfortable. It felt so weird. But from that moment on, it's a journey. It's not one day you go from hating yourself to being like, I love myself. But you tell yourself it enough and you eventually you believe yourself. It's how the brain works. Um, and the more you tell yourself, you find more reasons to love yourself for. It's part of our reticular activation system. It's a part in our brain, and it looks to confirm our beliefs through the things around us. So if you start telling yourself you love yourself, your brain is going to look for reasons to find to love yourself. Anyways, from that moment on, I started doing like the way I put my lotion on, or I would do oil massages on myself, and even my skincare before bed. And I'd just be like I'd look at myself with love, and I'd feel it in my heart. You can train yourself to cultivate that feeling within you. It takes practice, but it is possible. And my appearance, it has changed so much. A few days ago, you were like, excuse me, sorry. A few days ago, you're like, I was just looking at your Instagram and I can literally see the moment that you changed. You can tell just by looking at photos of me. It's wild. It's
That's funny you
incredible.
say that, because you and I've had this conversation where I've told you, and I've told a couple people, that every once in a while, good old Facebook memories, right? Like a video will come up and it'll be like a Facebook memory
Laugh in
from,
the face.
oh man, like Facebook memory from 2011. And it will just start playing, like it like auto plays these videos, and it'll be like a video of me talking. And at that time, like if you had asked me, everything is relative to where we are and the amount of growth that we've, say, been exposed to or undergone. And at that time, if someone had asked me, do you love yourself? I would have said, yeah. Like, oh, of course I love myself. I think I'm a good mom. Like I have a great partner. I was competing a lot then. So I was really pouring a lot of time and effort into training and nutrition and these things. But as I've grown and had kind of more of a, I would say probably spiritual connection with myself, like I can actually pinpoint times in my life where the relationships around me really started to change. And that was really all the relationships, my relationships with you guys and my relationship with my partner, or even people around me, started to change a lot when I started to change my relationship with myself, like when I started to work on it. But when I see these videos, I think, I look so hollow. I look like I don't have a soul almost. Like I look sad in my eyes or something. And so I know what you mean. It's the weirdest thing. Now I see a video or a picture of myself and I think, well, I look full of life, and like I actually really truly do love, like I truly do love life and do love my life, but I think it's because I love myself.
Well, you're still living the same life,
Exactly.
not experiencing it as the exact same person because you've
Mhm.
allowed yourself to evolve.
Yeah. And I think I want to come back to this because you said pleasure, how, society has a weird, almost like a knee-jerk reaction when we talk about pleasure, because everything is over sexualized, I think, in society and just by people in general. And um I kind of want to talk about that for a second, because I I think, obviously we live together and we have so many conversations with each other, but I have the same perspective on you. I'm like, life is meant to be experienced with zest and vitality and pleasure. But people, I don't know. I don't know. I always say, like, is it the woman condition where we've been told that we shouldn't experience pleasure, that we
As
run
a
from it?
woman, I
Yeah.
actually I actually really don't like when you say that, the woman condition. And
Well,
I've spoke about this on a previous video. It's that wounded dark feminine energy, which I know you've been doing some work on understanding feminine energy more. And pleasure to experience pleasure, well, like as a whole, it's very feminine, but experiencing pleasure is also very dark feminine because it's deemed unacceptable for a woman to express the pleasure that she's experiencing. Um, People who are very wounded, or I find that have this mindset around following the societal norms, is that pleasure is unacceptable, that we don't speak about it. I and I know that you don't mean any harm by this, but I don't like that, the woman condition, because who created that?
well,
Who created this rule that there's this condition that all women aren't? It really is a choice on how to be, don't you think?
yes, partly, but I
I
think
want to
when
hear
I
you
say
explain it
that,
a bit. I want you to explain it a bit more because
when I say that, when I use that terminology, I think what I'm talking about is the, over the course of my entire adult life, I've worked with women almost exclusively. And I have also worked with men. And I come from a family of men. I'm the only girl of 5 boys, and I don't see, and I'm not a crazy feminist. I would say I'm a feminist, but not in terms of the way, people see feminism nowadays. But men don't have the same um, thought processes around things like pleasure, right? So when I say the woman condition, I mean what I see women suffering from and what I've seen women suffering from over many, many years. And it is that, like, I think women struggle so much around the word, around the idea of things being pleasurable. We're taught that things should be tough. I shouldn't say we're taught. It seems as though women struggle with it because it is more acceptable to struggle or to not feel love or to not feel pleasure in ways.
I think we have the same idea. I think we just have different names for it. That's all. Because everything you're saying, I agree with. I just don't like that label, the woman condition. I truly believe it's wounded femininity is what it is.
Which unfortunately, I think a majority of women, at least the women I've met, suffer from.
Well, how could they not? We live in a patriarchal society where it suppresses all of that in a lot of ways. And even the feminist movement itself, it's pushing so much for this thing that it just has almost counteracted itself. It's so masculine because it's like that pushing and that, like, it's very masculine to be in that forward stance wanting things, getting things done, whereas the feminine is back and pleasurable and relaxed, and she doesn't need to do anything. Just by being herself, things happen. And I think now all that like the feminine masculine energy stuff, it's really come mainstream, which is amazing. And I think a lot more people are understanding that now, but there is still a large population of people that are stuck in that, like, this is how things have to be, this is how I have to act, this is just how things are. And women don't get paid as much, women don't get as many opportunities, women this, women that. It's really a mindset, because there are lots of successful women out there. There are lots of women who get everything and anything that they could want. It really depends on how you carry yourself, the energy you have, the beliefs you choose to believe. Because I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I've been in that place where I'm like, oh, men, this, and oh, I'm a woman, I have so many disadvantages. Oh, I'm a woman, I have to be this way. But now I'm like, I don't believe any of that. I'm a woman. I get to have fun in life. It gets to be pleasurable. I get to experience everything I want to in the ways I desire. And nobody can take that away from me. Nobody can tell me how it is. I get to choose how I experience it because this is my life. People can experience their life however they want. And I know that unfortunately, like, the reality that I'm currently living in isn't everyone else's reality, but I believe it's a choice. I don't think it's a condition. I think it's a choice. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's your mind with that? How do you feel about what I just said? Because I don't disagree with you.
No, I agree.
You agree with me?
I would say, I would say I agree with most of it. But if we're giving people tangible kind of nuggets, it takes, I don't know, takes a while to get to that place, I think, for most people. And so I would definitely agree with you that your reality and your story are yours, and most people don't understand what that means or what that looks like, right? Like most people don't live in that. They've never considered that to be even an option, to say to someone, your story is your story based on your reality, based on your past. A lot of people haven't even touched that work. So for people that are just existing, and I find with women, and this is just probably based on like some of my own experiences of the past, but also my observations of, again, like I said, like all the women of all ages that I've worked with over the years, over many, many years, where they don't understand that to get out, they have to go in. So they're still looking at everything outside of
Wait,
themselves. You talk about the patriarchy and you talk about
repeat
all
that
these
again.
things.
I want you to repeat that again because that was amazing and people need to hear that.
Yeah, I know it is good, isn't it? It's like
To get out, you have to go in.
it's a profound thing because I can say as a woman or as a mother, there have been times in my life, and now I see this in a lot of the people that I spend time with, a lot of the people that I'm around that I coach. They're always looking for something. They're looking for something to change their reality. They're looking for something to change how they feel about themselves, right? Like they're chasing things outside of themselves. But the minute they realize that the way out of this noise and the chaos and the dissatisfaction with yourself, that the way out is in. The way out is in. You have to go in and you have to do the work in order to, it does not matter how profound or how much traction you create in changing your life whether you're looking to change your finances, your relationships, your body, your mindset, if you don't realize that the way out is in, it doesn't matter how much work you do, you will always be chasing something out of reach.
I'm glad you said that. And that's exactly what I was gonna say too. You'll always be running after something that's not there. It doesn't exist because it's right here. You're actually running away from what's already within.
Yeah, actually, it's so crazy to think about because I had this experience myself where I don't know, I suppose I was always looking to like I was like always moving the needle just a little farther. And we recently talked about setting goals, and that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is self-mastery. Like what we're talking about here is how we love people, how we experience the things around us. We're talking about our experience of ourself, right? And so I had this really big moment where I realized it was kind of like you, like when you talked about like not loving yourself and and then just deciding that you were going to love yourself one day. I remember having this moment where I actually the best way to describe it is I decided to be where my feet were. And instead of trying to change to move the needle, like which I want to clarify here, there's nothing wrong with wanting something different, wanting to improve your health or wanting to master those kind of things. There's nothing wrong with that.
People kind of screw up or I don't know the language, but they misinterpret in a way and they want those things, but out of desperation, out of hate for where they are, they think they need to like change and
Yes.
then things will be better. But you're still you. You're
Mhm.
still that version of yourself that's like, and because that's not changing, maybe you get this thing that you want, but you're still the same person.
Mhm.
You still have the same thought processes. You still have the same ways of doing and executing things. Like you're gonna get this shiny thing, and then you're gonna feel no different because it's not the thing that changes you, it's you that changes yourself.
It's that I love that because it's something I think about a lot. Like I see people, they've asked me actually today, what do you think is missing in what you do? And just for anyone that doesn't know, like I have a training studio. I help women with, physical transformations. Especially in the training studio where, I see them for an hour and there's chatter and there's talk around, but there's not a lot, obviously there's not a lot of deep work in a 1 hour training session. But he asked me, like, what do you think is missing? And I said 100%. It's not having, like, not being able to teach people that the way out is in. Is not being able to teach people how to change their relationship with themselves. Because I've seen so many women, Ella, like, I've seen women lose 70, 80, 100 pounds and never be satisfied with it. Like, be happy that they did it, but knowing that it's going to be short-lived for them because they haven't done the work to master what's on the inside, because they are still themselves, right? They are, whether you lose 80 pounds or 100 pounds, you're still you. And that's a great and beautiful thing. Except if your relationship with yourself is troubled, if if you don't love yourself. And it's funny because we're sitting here talking about like self-love, but just to give people context around that, like self-love to me is having the same feelings about yourself as you do about your children. Like I remember telling women on Zoom calls over and over, the minute my relationship with myself changed so much, and my ability to execute the plan changed so much when I looked in the mirror and said, what can I do for you? right? I started treating myself like someone I loved. And I would tell women all the time, when I looked in the mirror, I started treating myself the way I treated you, right? And talking to myself the way I would talk to you, where if you
So
had a
profound.
bad day, pardon?
And I said that's so profound because it's also very reciprocal where I talk to myself the way that you talk to yourself. I learned it from you.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't have, and I think a lot of moms don't understand that either, that your children, they don't learn through what you tell them. You can't tell them like, oh, don't talk about yourself that way if you are going to the mirror and being like, ugh, my thighs or whatever it is, you know? But
And
I learned to talk to myself the way you talk to yourself, where it's super cool that you were like, hmm, how would I speak to Ella? That's
mhm.
how I should speak to myself.
But I think we should note on that, like, you know, I feel like I'm always preaching to moms because there are so many moms that I work with. And I feel like I'm constantly saying to them, like, how you are with yourself is going to, like, you are teaching your kids how to treat themselves and how to find partners. And it isn't always what we say, right? Like when I think back to earlier in this call when I said I saw these pictures of myself, or they would see these videos of myself, and there was like no soul. Like I was like a shell of a human, literally. Like I'm like, where's the essence of this person that I'm seeing in this video? Um, I never ever spoke poorly about myself out loud. Like it's just not something I've ever done. I've never ever, you know, used the F word, like said like, oh, I'm so fat, or I've never ever spoke
And other
poorly.
people, the F word is something completely different.
I know, I know. But I feel like I always talked to you and your brother when you were little about being strong and being healthy, and about having energy. Like those were kind of the words we used. But I want to just say, like, your troubled relationship from yourself didn't come from the words I said out loud, but the things I thought about myself, right? Moms have so much damn power. It's not, I like when I think about this now, I'm like, I never verbalized a dislike for myself, or that I wished I was different, or, I think the things that came out of my mouth were of quote unquote love, but I
Mhm.
didn't act that way in a lot
That's,
of ways.
but when you did shift that, that's
Mhm.
when I started shifting as well.
But moms are unbelievably powerful, because it's not, it's not what you say that matters. It's not what you say about yourself. So you could not say bad things about yourself around your kids. But if you don't love yourself, that is how you are teaching your daughters to love themselves. Like
And
we were,
how your sons should treat other women.
and how your sons will choose partners.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a poor relationship with yourself, like I would be willing to bet everything I have that that is how you will teach your sons to choose partners. So it's not just about daughters, but I need to stress this. I need to stress this so much. Um, it's worth it. It's not a liability, it's an asset for you to work on yourself and your relationship with yourself, right? It's not a liability in the sense that it's deep and dark. There are some dark corners and some cobwebs, but what you get on the other side of it is so different.
I
But
want
anyway,
to,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I want to share a powerful quote that I think
Oh yeah.
goes, but a woman who changes herself changes everyone around her. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
generations above and below.
Mm-hmm.
That could be your mom, your sisters, and also your daughter and how she'll treat her children
Mm-hmm.
and how their children will treat their children and how like it gets passed down genetically.
It's so profound because it is, this is like the foundation of what my business is built on, is creating intergenerational change. Because I always think if I can change how you know, if this mom comes to see me and I can have enough time with her to pour into her enough to change her relationship or even start the process of her changing her relationship with herself, that will change, like you said, generations above and generations below. And that's how we really, really make waves for how people treat themselves. Because I
And
don't see it getting any better, to be honest.
I agree. It's understanding your innate power as a woman,
Mhm.
the power you have to change your life, yourself, the people around you, which eventually that trickles down and it compounds into the whole world changing.
Mhm. So just kind of coming back to this, like if I didn't say things out loud, but didn't treat myself like someone I loved for the first part of your life, right? Like and I would say I wasn't really like terrible to myself, but I I definitely didn't, I don't think I treated myself like the person I loved in the world more than anyone, right?
It wasn't that you treated yourself terribly, but you didn't allow yourself to love and experience your life the way that
No,
you should. So I
I
couldn't do that either.
exactly. But how magnificent is it that when once that like the snowball effect of that is what I'm trying to say. Like the day that I stood in the
Any,
mirror,
you can do it at any point in your life too. And
exactly. And
it had impact. I would have been like what, 14, 15 when you really started making a change.
I think so. I remember that. I actually was being mentored by someone and she said, "Who do you love the most?" And I said, "My daughter." And she was like, "No, no, no, no. Who do you love the most?" And I was like kind of confused, like, okay, my husband, my sons, like I don't know, like who do I love the most? My mom, my dad, like so as women, we do this thing where we love everyone else more, right? Like I did this. I was like, well, I love my daughter, I love my husband, I love my two boys, I love my parents, I love the people that I'm blessed to be around every day. And she was like, no, the correct answer is you. And I was like, what? And she said, if you stood in the mirror every day and told yourself and treated yourself the way that you would treat your daughter, if your daughter was struggling, how would you treat her? Like if she was having a hard day, would you say, just get your shit together and you'll be fine? No, you'd say, you know what? Tell me about it. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. Is there anything I can do? What can I do to help you? What can I do? What can I do to make your day better? Right?
Profound. I think people too, they don't realize that if you're giving yourself all this love, you have even more love to give to the people that you do love. It's not selfish. It's actually being selfish is the most selfless thing you can do.
Mhm.
And if you aren't loving yourself, the love you can give is it's capped. You
Mhm.
know, it's only to a
It is.
certain extent you can give out that love.
It's so crazy to me because going back to, I say all the time, like we can't pour from an empty cup and we cannot teach what we do not do. So I see people, I should stop saying I see people doing this and this. I've been like genuinely become very curious about people and I'm trying to be really careful about not making sure that it's like non-judgmental. But I think so many I've never known a mom to not love her children. But the extent that we can love our children is how much we love ourselves. And so if we have all these conditions on how we love ourselves, like I only love myself if I eat healthy. I only love myself if I perform the way that I think I should perform by society. I only love myself if I'm, doing XYZ and if I only love myself if I'm busy all the time or I only, you know what I mean? Like women have so many freaking conditions on how they love themselves, which would then dictate that you actually can only love your children conditionally, right? You're lying to yourself. If you think that you can love your children unconditionally and you don't love yourself conditionally, the extent to which you can love other people is how much you actually love yourself.
Yeah,
Like I believe that with all my heart and soul.
me too. Because now that I love myself, I experience my life so much more fully. I am in love with everything, every aspect of life, even a piece of grass blowing in the wind. I'm like, oh, I love that. Look how beautiful. If I didn't first feel that way in myself, I'd just walk past all of these things and I wouldn't even really notice them.
Mhm.
Life, your life changes so much when you love yourself. So just love yourself.
Oh my gosh. I feel like some people are going to listen to this and think that we're just like walking through the world with rose-colored glasses, but it is the next level of self-mastery, right? We first have to learn, and I realize that
Also,
it
I just
has to
ask,
happen in stages. Yeah.
thinking that that's walking through life in rose-colored glasses itself is just a perception.
Yeah,
And you
it's
ask
true.
yourself, where does that come from? Where does that belief stem from? Did
But I think
someone that
it
that
all has to happen in stages, right? Because somebody who isn't all doesn't have the most basic foundations taken care of, right? If someone is you know, not doing what they said they were going to do. If someone is, every day is like, I'm going to get up early and do these things to make my life better so I can live out the version of life that I want. I can become the version of me that I want to be in the future, but they're hitting their alarm, their snooze, but the snooze on their alarm. So they're not getting up early, and then they're late for things, and then they're not eating healthy because they're disheveled and disorganized, and then they're not exercising because they're trying to pour too much into everything outside of themselves. That like this self-love, it really is the next level that you get to by doing these, like having these foundations taken care of, having this foundational platform to start from, which is, in my eyes, how you eat, how you sleep, how you exercise or move your body, how you, like, what your stress management is, and your relationships around you, right?
Mhm. And once
Including relationship with yourself.
those things, that's when you can go into the deeper, darker parts of yourself.
Mhm.
And then once you're doing both of those things together, it's like I said before, it's this beautiful, coherent, I don't even know what to call it, but it just elevates you so much.
Mhm.
And you are who you've came here to be, who you're meant to be.
Mhm. Yeah. I have nothing bad to say about self-love.
Sure.
I I but
Love themselves.
but I actually, like, I can honestly say that when I started to change my relationship, like I could have worked on my relationship with you, and I could have worked on my relationship with Eddie, and I could have worked on my relationship with Dave. Like, I could have learned more about how to have a fulfilling relationship with Dave, which I would say my relationship with Dave was already quite fulfilling, right? Like, we have the same values, we want the same things for our family, like we live a pretty similar life, obviously. But when I started to repair my relationship with myself is when I realized, like, and even recently also, like, I've been on this journey for a long time, but like repairing my relationship with myself and learning to love myself without conditions has played a massive, it's really moved, the game pieces on the board in the right direction, I would say. For, like, it's not even like I've gone to Dave and said, okay, I'm learning to love myself more, but I just show up differently.
Yeah.
Our relationship, like, my relationship with you, I would say, is so different. But
No,
my
for
relationship with my
context, people,
husband,
for context, people, we did not get along at all for a while. There was a period where we didn't even really talk to each other that much.
oh my gosh,
But
I'm
when we
I'm
both loved
so,
ourselves, now we've like, you would think we're best friends.
I know, it's so crazy because I like want to sit here and be like, I'm so sad that we had such a troubled relationship, but I'm actually so happy because, number one, like,
grow
I just
together.
value you and appreciate you so much. And I think it's weird for people to hear me say this, but like I actually would say that you're my best friend
Aw,
and you're my daughter, right? So that it's
I
kind
love
of
you
crazy,
so
but
much.
no, I do. I like I feel like my heart is going to explode when I think about you. And I just love you so much. But it's because I've learned to love myself.
You
And
wouldn't have all that capacity for love if you had this like blocked off area where you blocked off your emotion of love. You can't be open to feel it if you don't allow for it, and you can only allow for it by practicing it yourself.
like the amount that I love you is like what I think people experience when they have a sister. Do you know what I mean? Like that's weird because you're my daughter, but I just love you so much. But anyway, it also is like I just want to highlight this for people. Um, I did not go to my husband and say, I've been doing all this work on the inside. I'm learning to love myself. I'm doing this. Oh my God, we have a visitor. But my relationship with him has changed so much, and it is so good, and it is so fulfilling, and it is so different than it has ever been.
Little friend joining us.
A small friend. I always think this is like the tell that it's almost time to wrap it up.
I think this conversation itself has been so fulfilling. And I just find so much love listening to you speak on this topic. And I feel so much love just sharing about this topic because this truly is what has changed our lives. I
Mhm,
think for
mhm.
sure we would not be where we are now if we wouldn't have delved into that journey of self-love. Because self-love leads to self-mastery
It
for
is so true. 1 second.
sure. I think we've touched a lot on this topic, but I think there's always more. I'm sure in the future we'll come back and we'll speak more on this as more comes up and we have more to say.
Mhm.
For now, I think we should leave it where it is. So, so you can go spend some time with Jack.
Oh my gosh, the streetlights are coming on.
If
Yeah,
anything
I
before
definitely think that no, I think that we probably need to have a part two to this.
I think so.
Because yeah, I feel like we always really get kind of on a roll at the end, but um yeah, I think let's plan a part two to give people kind of more actionable things that they can do.
We gave a couple things, I think. Definitely like start by looking at yourself in the mirror and saying you love yourself. It's going to be uncomfortable, especially if you've
Mhm.
never done it before. But that every day will
Mhm.
compound into you actually experiencing that feeling for yourself. And you will see
Mhm.
everything around you change.
Yeah, the two, I would say that, like actually, and self-love isn't just like affirmations. Like affirmations do not do it for me.
You
They
have
do
to
in
feel
ways like
that.
I think they're useful tools,
They are useful
but
to
to
you
just
have to
sit
feel
and
them.
be, yeah, you have to start by making the choice. And by doing it's kind of weird at first, I would say, like to look in the mirror and say, self, I love you more than anyone in the world. I'm going to take the best care of you for the rest of our lives. Right? Like it's weird to say at first, but I think
Especially
that the second really
people around
actionable.
you have, like your family's never told you that. You've never told yourself that. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
weird. It's gonna feel a little phony. But saying that and then even picturing things that bring you love and then feel that feeling, remember that feeling, and try to implement that feeling while you're telling yourself in the mirror. Your life
Mhm. And I
around
think
you will change.
totally. Um, what was I going to say? to create foundations, like as far as creating foundations, like actionable items for creating foundations for like a solid foundation is what I'm trying to say. Don't overcomplicate. Like I have these pillars that I kind of structure my world around. Like I said earlier, it's like how I eat, how I sleep, how I train. Obviously, hydration is in there, stress management, and then managing the relationships around me. And sometimes that means going on, um, like kind of like decluttering the people around you, like actually just getting kind of observing what is going on. And sometimes you have to, I want to say remove people.
They naturally just fall off though. When you
They
embark on
really,
a
they actually
journey,
really,
you don't really have to say or do anything. Things
when
will
you
happen.
change on the inside, your circle changes a lot, I would
That's
say. Um, but don't overcomplicate that either, right? Like you don't have to have this like crazy master plan for all of these things, but what you can do is just start paying attention. Start paying attention to the foods you put in your body. Start paying attention to how much water you're drinking. Start paying attention to what time you're going to bed and what your bedtime habits look like. Like, are you scrolling social media and reading the news? Are you like putting all these,
none of
sub
that's bad.
periods in?
You ask yourself, does this feel good to me?
Mhm.
That's what the best version of me would do. You don't even have to be like, scrolling on my phone is bad. I scroll on my phone sometimes. Sometimes it's a nice little break for me, and I truly enjoy it. I've cultivated my Instagram feed so that it's all super positive messages and really happy, like little videos of puppies and stuff. Social media isn't bad, but it is. It's having that awareness. What am I watching? Or
Mhm.
what am I eating? When am I sleeping? How does it make me feel?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what? This is bad. This is good. How does it make me feel? And then you can make the change from there if you feel you need to.
Exactly. Um, so that, and then I would say like the third actionable item would be, or tangible thing that you can, that you can change would be, um, yeah, like honestly, it's just paying attention. It's just paying attention, like not even so much adding all these things in, but
Just
just paying
paying
attention
attention
to
and
things.
adding intention. Pay
Yeah.
attention to the person and add the intention. I want to feel really good and happy today. So I'm gonna wake up a few minutes earlier so that I can give myself some of the love that I think I need.
Mhm.
Intention. I want to
Yeah.
feel energized and I want to show up good around my family today. So I'm going to eat a healthier option so that, I have that energy and I feel really happy. Or even on the other end, like I'm going to this family gathering and there's going to be a lot of really yummy food there. I'm going to enjoy it with the people I love.
Mhm. Yeah,
Attention,
that's huge.
intention.
Mhm.
Those are the two
Attention
key.
and intention. Love it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think, that's a great place to wrap it up.
I think so too. This
And
was so fun. We haven't done one of these in
great
a couple
advice.
of weeks, and I'm glad that we're going to be getting more on a consistent roll of these and posting them to YouTube. So exciting.
I love my conversations with you. I know I tell you that all the time. I love my conversations with you, even when we don't see eye to eye. But I so respect your position on things and I want to learn from you. And sometimes I'm sure you can see that I'm like
I feel the
getting
same
all like
about you too. I
heated
love
and
hearing new perspectives
yeah.
and it's always with love. It's always with love. And I know that you're not gonna agree with everything I say. I can have some extreme opinions sometimes, but I know that they're mine and nobody has to own them except for me. And
Well,
I'm deeply rooted in them, and that's all that matters. You're deeply rooted in your beliefs, and that's awesome for you.
yeah. And yeah, I love and respect you and look forward to more conversations like this with you.
Thank you so much for today. This one was awesome. And
Yes, thank
goodbye to
you.
everyone who watched this whole thing. We are rooting for you. We love you. And we're so excited for you to love yourself too. Let us know. Let us know all the incredible things. pay attention to the changes that happen when you implement these things and let us know, because things get wild. The changes are, they're there. You see them. You notice the way people treat you. You notice how things play out for you. It's a beautiful journey to embark on. And it's
It is amazing.
eternal as well. It'll last your whole life. That's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Alrighty.
Wonderful.
Ready to
All
say
right. Well,
goodbye.
signing off, and we'll be chatting again soon.